Donald Trump's 2025 military parade, why it's sparking global controversy. On June 14, 2025, Washington, D.C., witnessed a spectacle unlike any in recent American history, a grand military parade celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. The event, which coincided with President Donald Trump's 79th birthday, featured 6,700 soldiers, 84 military vehicles, including 28 Abrams tanks, dozens of aircraft, and a fireworks display. Costing an estimated $25 million to $45 million, the parade was a bold display of American military might. But it was also a lightning rod for controversy, both domestically and internationally, with critics accusing Trump of politicizing the military and projecting authoritarian tendencies. This article explores the parade's purpose, its execution, the global reactions it provoked, and the broader implications for American democracy and international perceptions of the United States. Background: the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary and Trump's vision. The U.S. Army was established on June 14, 1775, by the Second Continental Congress, predating the Declaration of Independence by over a year. The 250th anniversary was a significant milestone, intended to honor the Army's legacy of service, from the Revolutionary War to modern conflicts. Planning for the celebration began in 2023, with the Army initially envisioning a modest festival featuring exhibitions, fitness competitions, and historical displays. However, in early 2025, during Trump's second term as the 47th president, the event was expanded to include a massive military parade, a concept Trump had championed since his first term. Trump's fascination with military parades dates back to 2017, when he attended France's Bastille Day parade and was captivated by its display of tanks, troops, and aircraft. He proposed a similar event for the U.S. initially for Veterans Day 2018, but faced resistance from Pentagon officials, including then Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, who reportedly opposed the idea as reminiscent of authoritarian regimes. Costs estimated at $100 million for a multi-branch parade also led to its cancellation. Instead, Trump settled for smaller displays, such as tanks at the 2019 Salute to America event. By 2025, however, with a more compliant administration and a focus solely on the Army, Trump's vision came to fruition. The 2025 parade was framed as a patriotic celebration, with the White House emphasizing its role in honoring veterans, active duty troops, and Gold Star families. President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth attended, with Trump delivering remarks praising the Army as the greatest, fiercest, and bravest fighting force ever to stride the face of this earth. The event included historical reenactments, with soldiers in Revolutionary War and Desert Storm uniforms, and modern displays like drones and robotic dogs, showcasing the Army's evolution. Yet, the parade's timing, coinciding with Trump's birthday and Flag Day, raised eyebrows. Critics argued it was less about the Army and more about Trump's ego, a charge fueled by his history of personalizing national events. The estimated cost, ranging from $25 million to $45 million, also sparked debate, especially as Trump's administration pushed for federal budget cuts, including to the Department of Veterans Affairs. These tensions set the stage for a polarized response both at home and abroad. The parade, a spectacle of military might. The 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army Grand Military Parade and celebration unfolded along Constitution Avenue, from 15th to 23rd Streets on the National Mall. Starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, half an hour early due to weather concerns, the parade featured 700 soldiers, representing every Army division. Troops marched in formations, some dressed in historical uniforms from the Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II, and Desert Storm. 84 military vehicles, including 28 M1A2 Abrams tanks, 27 Bradley fighting vehicles, 2 World War II-era Sherman tanks, and a World War I-era Renault tank. Metal plates were laid along the route to protect D.C. streets from damage. 50 aircraft, Flyovers included CH-47 Chinook and UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters, World War II-era P-51 Mustangs, and AB-25 Mitchell bomber. Special displays, the Army's Golden Knights parachute team performed, and modern technologies like drones and robotic dogs highlighted the Army's future. Ceremonial elements, a 21-gun salute, military bands, and a fireworks show capped the event, with country music performances by Warren Zeiders and Lee Greenwood. Trump and his entourage watched from a viewing stand south of the White House, joined by administration figures like Attorney General Pam Bondi and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The president swore in 250 new recruits, a symbolic gesture, and received a folded American flag, typically reserved for families of fallen soldiers, prompting further criticism. The parade was part of a broader day of festivities, including a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery, a fitness competition, and an Army birthday festival on the National Mall. Supporters like Crystal Sykes, a North Carolina nurse, saw it as a celebration of national strength, with some attendees wearing MAGA hats and chanting, "USA, USA." However, turnout was lower than expected, with estimates ranging from tens of thousands to 250,000, far short of the 200,000 to 300,000 predicted by organizers. Steamy weather and security concerns may have contributed to the smaller crowds. Domestic reactions, patriotism or propaganda, the parade elicited sharply divided reactions in the United States, reflecting the country's deep political polarization. Supporters. A celebration of strength and recruitment. Trump supporters viewed the parade as a long overdue tribute to the military and a demonstration of American power. The White House described it as a historic event to inspire a new generation to embrace the spirit of service, resilience, and leadership. Army officials, including Secretary Daniel Driscoll, argued it was a recruitment tool, with the Army reporting it was on track to meet 85% of its 2025 recruiting goals. Supporters like Brian Henry, who traveled from Texas, saw no issue with tanks rolling through D.C., viewing it as a proud moment for the Army. Conservative media outlets, such as Fox News, framed the parade as a patriotic history lesson, emphasizing its educational value and the Army's role in shaping the nation. Attendees like Air Force member Carlton Guthrie argued it sent a message to adversaries, particularly amid tensions in the Middle East, that the U.S. military remained strong. The presence of historical vehicles and uniforms resonated with some, who appreciated the nod to past sacrifices. Critics. Politicization and authoritarianism. Critics, including Democratic lawmakers, veterans groups, and progressive activists, decried the parade as a wasteful and self-aggrandizing spectacle. They pointed to several concerns: politicization of the military. The parade's alignment with Trump's birthday and his history of partisan rhetoric raised fears of the military being co-opted for political purposes. A week earlier, Trump's deployment of Marines to Los Angeles to quell immigration protests and a partisan speech at Fort Bragg, where soldiers booed his political rivals, intensified these concerns. Historian Joshua Zeitz noted that military parades in peacetime are rare in the U.S., with the last major one in 1991 after the Gulf War, and argued this event broke with democratic norms, cost and waste, the $25 million to $45 million price tag, including potential street repairs, drew ire, especially as Trump's administration proposed cuts to veterans services and other programs. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal called it the epitome of government waste, while Representative Steve Cohen suggested the true cost was likely higher. A poll by the Associated Press NORC found 60% of Americans viewed the parade as a poor use of funds. Authoritarian optics. Critics compared the parade to displays in authoritarian regimes like Russia, China, and North Korea. The Intercept described it as a martial spectacle reminiscent of the Soviet Union, while Republican Senator Rand Paul expressed unease at the image of goose-stepping soldiers and big tanks. Veterans like Chris Yeasel, who served in Iraq, called it un-American and intimidating, especially given Trump's warning of heavy force against protesters. Protest movements. The parade sparked the No Kings protests organized by labor unions and progressive groups, which drew millions across cities like Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia. Protesters like Jordan and Isabel, who carried signs reading, "Nobody paid me to be here, I protest for free," aimed to reclaim patriotism from MAGA symbolism. In D.C., smaller protests at Logan Circle highlighted opposition to Trump's policies, including his military deployments, the assassination of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman, and the wounding of another lawmaker on the same day added a grim backdrop, with some speculating the violence was politically motivated, further polarizing reactions to the parade. Global reactions: a mixed bag of admiration and alarm internationally. The parade was closely watched, with reactions ranging from cautious praise to outright condemnation, shaped by each country's relationship with the U.S. and its view of Trump. Allies: concern over democratic norms. European allies, particularly France and Germany, expressed unease. French media noted the irony of Trump's inspiration from Bastille Day, given its revolutionary roots, and questioned whether the parade signaled a shift toward authoritarianism. A German editorial in Die Zeit called it a troubling display of militarism in a democracy, especially amid Trump's threats to impose tariffs on European goods. NATO officials privately worried about the parade's message at a time when U.S. leadership in the alliance was under scrutiny. United Kingdom: the British press drew parallels to historical military parades under authoritarian regimes, with The Guardian describing it as neither the totalitarian spectacle critics feared nor the triumph Trump craved. Some UK commentators saw it as a distraction from pressing issues like the Israel-Iran conflict, where Trump's indecision on military involvement raised questions about U.S. reliability. Canada: Canadian outlets like CBC expressed concern about the parade's implications for North American security, particularly given Trump's recent trade threats. However, some Canadian veterans praised the historical focus, seeing it as a nod to shared military traditions. Adversaries: propaganda and hypocrisy. Russian state media, such as RT, framed the parade as evidence of U.S. hypocrisy, accusing Washington of criticizing Moscow's Victory Day parades while staging its own. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov remarked, "It seems America has learned from us how to celebrate strength." Russian analysts suggested the parade was a response to domestic unrest and a signal to adversaries like Iran, China. Chinese outlets like Global Times mocked the parade as a desperate show of power by a divided nation. They highlighted that "no kings" protests as evidence of internal dissent, contrasting it with China's tightly controlled military displays. Some Chinese commentators speculated that Trump was emulating Xi Jinping's style to project strength amid economic challenges. Iran: amid escalating tensions after U.S. strikes on Iranian targets, Iranian media condemned the parade as a provocation. State-run Press TV called it a parade of arrogance, linking it to Trump's support for Israel's bombing campaigns. Neutral observers: fascination and critique. Indian media, accustomed to large Republic Day parades, viewed the event with curiosity but noted its political undertones. The Times of India described it as a blend of patriotism and personality cult, questioning whether it would bolster or undermine U.S. soft power. Brazilian outlets drew comparisons to military displays under past authoritarian regimes in Latin America, with Folha de S. Paulo warning that the parade could embolden populist leaders in the region to mimic Trump's tactics. African nations: some African commentators, particularly in Nigeria and South Africa, saw the parade as a legitimate celebration of military heritage but criticized its cost, noting that $45 million could fund significant development projects in poorer nations. The global response was shaped by Trump's broader foreign policy, including his "America First" agenda, trade disputes, and indecision on the Israel-Iran conflict. The parade was seen by some as a projection of strength to deter adversaries, but by others as a sign of internal weakness, given the scale of domestic protests. The controversy, politicization and historical context. The parade's critics argued it represented a dangerous politicization of the military, a cornerstone of American democracy that prides itself on political neutrality. Historically, large-scale military parades in the U.S. have been rare, typically reserved for post-war victories, such as the 1991 Gulf War Parade, which cost $12 million and was partly funded by veterans groups. That event, too, was controversial, with some arguing it glorified war over reconciliation. Trump's parade, however, occurred in peacetime, a rarity that drew comparisons to authoritarian regimes. Critics like Risa Brooks of Marquette University argued that tanks rolling down streets of the Capitol suggested a military turning inward, focusing on domestic control rather than external threats. The timing, following Trump's deployment of federal troops in Los Angeles and a partisan speech at Fort Bragg, amplified these fears. Supporters countered that the parade was a legitimate celebration of the Army's history, not unlike France's Bastille Day or India's Republic Day. They argued that critics exaggerated the authoritarian narrative, noting that the event included no overt political messaging beyond Trump's remarks. The Army's focus on historical reenactments and recruitment was seen as a way to engage younger generations, particularly as military enlistment has faced challenges in recent years. X posts, a snapshot of public sentiment. Social media, particularly X, captured the polarized sentiment surrounding the parade. White House, June 15, 2025. United States Watch, President Donald J. Trump's full remarks at the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army Grand Military Parade. This post, linking to Trump's speech, garnered thousands of likes but also drew comments accusing the event of being a vanity project. General_Ben, June 12, 2025 highlighted concerns about the parade's optics, stating, military parade with tanks in the Capitol, threats against potential protesters, Trump speeches at Fort Bragg/West Point, deployment of National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles showing strength against Americans versus foreign adversaries. A disturbing visual. This post resonated with critics, receiving significant engagement. Reuters, June 14, 2025, Trump holds military parade on his birthday for U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. The neutral reporting drew mixed reactions, with some users praising the event's patriotism and others calling it a waste of taxpayer money. Ryan_Crosswell, June 14, 2025. A veteran expressed outrage, writing, Trump's throwing himself a $45 million damn parade, ripping 6,000 troops from their families and hauling tanks just for his ego. That's not patriotism. Real leaders don't use soldiers as props. This post went viral among critics, amplifying veterans' dissent. Really American One, June 14, 2025 called the parade a stroking of Trump's fragile ego, comparing it to what all the dictators do. The post fueled anti-Trump sentiment, with thousands of retweets. Richard Engwin, June 15, 2025 echoed literary figure Stephen King, labeling the parade a grotesque display of vanity, and underscoring Trump's authoritarian tendencies. This post gained traction among progressive audiences. These posts reflect the deep divide, with supporters celebrating the parade as a patriotic milestone and critics viewing it as a dangerous precedent. The platform's real-time nature amplified both sides, with hashtags like NoKings and Army 250 trending. Broader implications, democracy, militarism, and global perception. The parade's controversy extends beyond its immediate execution, raising questions about the state of American democracy and its global image. Domestic implications. Military neutrality. The event strained the military's apolitical stance, a principle rooted in the U.S. Constitution. The Army's investigation into MAGA merchandise at Fort Bragg and veterans groups like Vietnam Veterans of America refusing to participate underscored internal unease. The parade risked alienating service members who value the military's nonpartisan ethos. Polarization, that No Kings protests, drawing millions, highlighted the growing divide between Trump's base and his opponents. The assassination in Minnesota and Middle East tensions added a volatile backdrop, making the parade a flashpoint for broader unrest. Recruitment and public perception. While the Army touted the parade as a recruitment tool, critics argued it could deter enlistment by associating the military with partisan politics. The AP&RC poll showing 60% disapproval suggested a public skeptical of its value. International implications. Soft power. The parade aimed to project strength but may have weakened U.S. soft power by reinforcing perceptions of arrogance and division. Allies questioned America's commitment to democratic norms, while adversaries used the event to paint the U.S. as hypocritical. Geopolitical messaging. Amid the Israel-Iran conflict, the parade was seen by some as a warning to adversaries, but its domestic focus, coupled with Trump's indecision on military action, muddied the message. Countries like Russia and China seized the opportunity to highlight U.S. internal strife. Authoritarian playbook. The parade's optics fed narratives that Trump was emulating strongmen like Putin or Xi, potentially emboldening populist leaders globally to stage similar displays. Conclusion. A divisive legacy. The June 14, 2025, military parade was a historic moment, celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary with unprecedented scale. For supporters, it was a proud display of patriotism and military heritage, fulfilling Trump's vision of showcasing American strength. For critics, it was a costly, ego-driven spectacle that politicized the military and echoed authoritarian tactics, undermining democratic norms. Globally, the parade elicited a spectrum of reactions, from cautious admiration to sharp condemnation, reflecting the complex legacy of Trump's leadership. As the U.S. approaches its own 250th anniversary in 2026, the event serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between celebrating military service and preserving the apolitical integrity of the armed forces. Whether the parade will be remembered as a patriotic triumph or a cautionary tale remains to be seen, but its impact on American and global discourse is undeniable.